Hi, everyone. I wanted to make this video to kind of help you with your final project presentation. This is a little bit different than your essay that you did in Module 3. So in Module 3, you kind of introduced your topic, and then now we're in the final project. And so you're kind of finishing up the rest of the questions for your final. And you're going to be creating a presentation. So you can either use PowerPoint, you can use Google Slides, you can use Prezi. The other thing you're going to be doing is including speaker notes. So because a presentation should be kind of bulleted points, and you need to include, in order to kind of explain those bulleted points, you're going to include speaker notes with that. So the good news is that you have already completed questions 1, 2, and 3. You did that in your topic proposal. If you scored really well on that, and I didn't, and I told you that you didn't need to make any improvements, then you are literally kind of copy and pasting that information into your speaker notes, and you just need to create slides for those 3 things. Now, if I did give you some feedback and say, hey, you need to, fix XYZ thing, then you need to go ahead and do that before you move forward. So I'm going to kind of show you how the speaker notes and the presentation works. So here is, kind of my example slideshow, right? And I've started off by an intro slide that says Hawaiian disasters. And so here's that, that first question. I've included a relevant picture, which you need to do. And I've given, some bullet points here, like kind of the main ideas about where it's located, how is it formed, what is it prone to, the features that kind of make it unique, right? So that is answering question 1. So in my speaker notes, I would have a Word document, and I would say, title it. So speaker notes for final project. And I want you to go ahead and label this. So you would say slide 1, Hawaiian introduction. Right, and so that was the first, slide right here. Okay, I guess I should probably put the actual title. So Hawaiian disasters. So then slide 2 is going to be the location and features. And so this is where you would, if you had done really well on your topic proposal, this is where you would kind of copy and paste your first paragraph in your topic proposal that fully lists, the location and the features and, any relevant references that you made and things like that. So, this right here should have a paragraph of information in it. It's almost kind of like you are talking. Like if you were giving the presentation. So you would say, the location of the Hawaiian Islands are in the Pacific Ocean, yada, 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 right? And then, once you've finished that information, you'd go on to slide 3. So slide 3 is your, your second question, which is where you talk about 2 past disasters that have occurred in the area. And then slide, you'll probably want to do 1 slide for 1 disaster and 1 slide for another, because if you try to kind of squish them on 1 slide, it's going to be really messy, and I wouldn't recommend that. So in my presentation, I've put the first past disaster there, and then the second disaster on 2 different slides. So I would, go to my speaker notes, and I would say, Hurricane Iniki, and then I would write all of the things that I knew about Hurricane Iniki in my speaker notes that I would, be presenting. And then I would have slide 4, which is the tsunami disaster that happened. And then I would have, you know, a paragraph of information about the tsunami. So it's the speaker notes should not be bulleted points. They should be like kind of your paragraphs of information that you completed already. And then whenever you get to the new information, you're going to be, you know, putting in, you know, how you would present it. So you can see here that my bulleted points, I've included, you know, a relevant picture, and I have, you know, my bullet points of the main features of that disaster. So when did it occur? How was it categorized? How much damage did it cause? You know, was there any kind of like weird thing about it, like to help either save lives or things that kind of added to the problem? So like, for instance, in the tsunami of 1946, the major issue is that there was no warning system in place. There was no tsunami warning system. So this was actually a really bad tsunami that hit because of the fact that there were no tsunami barriers, and also they had no warning. So you'll want to kind of get detailed with your past disasters, and, you know, not only just what occurred, but what were the things that were kind of either missing or the things that were in place to help the population. All right, so then this is kind of your final part where you already kind of completed the information with the detailed explanation of the potential natural hazards that are a threat. So you completed, you know, like I said, you completed these 3 in your topic proposal. So this is just kind of rehashing the information that you had. As I said before, you do not have to have a list of 20 things, okay? You want to kind of list, you know, your top 3, your top 5, whatever, whatever is most likely to happen. So in my list that I put here, you know, volcanic eruptions happen in Hawaii all the time. So that's kind of my top potential natural hazard. And then along with that comes, you know, earthquakes, because when volcanoes erupt, earthquakes kind of go off and there's damage that occurs to that area. Tsunamis are always a threat to the Hawaiian Islands because of their location in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So there's that. I also included tropical diseases and hurricanes. And then also, I probably should have put sea level rise, probably right underneath. That should have probably been in my top 3, because they are having a major problem because they're an island nation with sea level rise, and they're not that high above sea level. So I probably should have moved that. So now we're getting into the part of your presentation that that is new to you, that you'll have to, you know, do your research. So, you know, slide 6 is covering the part of your instructions that says a map of the hazardous areas, the cities, towns, et cetera, that are most at risk, and the ones which are safe should be identified. You're going to have to do some research on this. You may have to maybe even draw the map yourself. It just depends on what you can find. So in this particular slide, I have, you know, the hazard map. They've, you know, the USGS so kindly made a map of the areas that are at high risk of, you know, being impacted by volcanic eruptions. And then I included the hazard map of the earthquakes and tsunamis that could hit the area. So these were already kind of created for me, and I copied and pasted them. Now you do have to list that, you know, in your reference section of your PowerPoint presentation, because, you know, if I don't have that, then it's considered plagiarism. So don't do that. So yeah, so I've included the hazard map, and you can just say a really, you know, so slide 6 and 7, whoops, hazard maps of volcanoes and earthquakes and tsunamis. So you could just give like a quick blurb of, you know, the area is most likely to be impacted by, you know, the volcanic eruptions. You would want to say, is, you know, the area is located near Kilauea and Kona is over here. And the ones that are least likely to have, you know, be impacted by a major eruption is going to be on the Mauna Kea side. So I believe like Hilo is located over here. And then with the, you know, hazards with earthquakes, it's kind of the same area. So, you know, this whole area of the island is going to be majorly impacted if there's a volcanic eruption or earthquakes. Now, you can also see the areas that are in blue. They're kind of telling you these areas are prone to having, being impacted by tsunamis. So you would kind of just say, you know, you'd talk about the towns and the ones that are safe and the ones that are kind of in the path for a potential natural disaster to occur and what that natural disaster would be. So then your next one is talking about an analysis of the environmental risks and the potential economic losses to this area. You can drill down with this as far as you want to go. There also might be limited information depending on which area you have chosen. So hopefully you kind of did that research at the beginning so that you're not at the 11th hour trying to come up with something that you can't find. So this is where well-researched projects really help you out. So I have kind of just briefly listed some risks from that are potential issues with the Hawaiian Islands. 3 is good. More would be better. I just kind of did this as a general overview so you could see what it is I'm looking for, but you kind of want to really discuss, you know, what is at risk from these hazards. So for instance, you know, if you have a volcanic eruption, there's nothing you can really do to protect your home or your business from lava flowing over it. And same thing, it's an island nation. There's a lot of endangered species on it. There's not a whole lot that can be done. If the ecosystem is destroyed, you're going to lose, you know, potential species. Now, do you need to have specific numbers? It's great if you can find them. If you can't, then it's okay to give a general overview of, you know, what would be lost, what species would potentially be lost. You know, if you have a hard and fast number of like economic wise, you know, for instance, like loss of tourism from climate change, there's a lot of figures out there that have been proposed for different places. So, you know, you could potentially in your speaker notes, right? So like slide 8. Right, so you could say, you know, the UN predicts a loss of, I'm just going to invent a figure, you know, 40 billion to the Hawaiian economy from disasters from climate change. Okay, so that's that, you know, grammatically that's not correct, but you get the idea. So if you have, you know, hard and fast numbers, that's excellent. If you don't, that's okay too. You know, just be kind of vigilant with your references and your sources and your research and making sure that you are covering this topic as in-depth as you can. And then finally, your last question that you're answering is a prediction of how climate change can worsen these area hazards. So the 2 hazards you chose, that will kind of, you know, depend on what climate change could do. So in my presentation, you know, mine's a little bit easier because it's an island. And so islands are always going to be impacted worse by climate change than a coastal area or an area that is located, you know, in further into a continent. So in that instance, if you have one of those locations, then you might want to look at how climate change might make, you know, drought worse or flooding worse, and different, you know, wildfires, or like increase, you know, disease contact and things like that. Whereas if you have a coastal area, you're going to want to look into how, you know, how can climate change impact hurricanes or sea level rise or other kind of disasters. Volcanoes and earthquakes are not really made worse by climate change, so that kind of doesn't count. So you'll just have to kind of do some research about your area and what the predictions are for, you know, climate change impacts. So for Hawaii, I listed that there's going to be worse hurricane damage because it's predicted that hurricane intensity will increase. With sea level rise, there can be a lot of flooding. And then you know, if the coasts are lowered because of sea level rise, if there is a tsunami, it can come in at a higher level. And then the last slide you want to do is your references. Okay, so for any pictures that you used and any kind of research papers you used, this is where you want to list them and have them all together. And then in your speaker notes, you do not need to put your references in your speaker notes. Your speaker notes are just literally for you to type out your presentation as if you were speaking it, and show me that, you know, you can make a coherent kind of presentation. So some things that I would recommend you not doing. I would definitely recommend you not just having a blank slide, right, where you just answer your question. That's not really an engaging presentation. That's not, that doesn't really fit the criteria of what has been outlined. Instead, you know, and I would not recommend putting, you know, 5 or 6 sentences here. Like, you want just clean bulleted points. All of your major information, like where you would be talking, goes into your speaker notes. And then, so you kind of really want this presentation to look similar to what I have given you as an example here. And so when you finish, so you have everything that you need, you're going to go to your module, and you will go to the submission folder, and you'll have 2 submissions. So you'll have, and it's not letting me do it because I'm not in student view, but anyways, there will be a button, you know, down here that where you can submit. You might even be able to do it in the actual assignments. Yeah, here we go. And you'll upload your PowerPoint. If you have a Prezi, you need to upload a document that has the Prezi link. If you do a Google Slides, you'll need to download it as a PowerPoint, and then upload that PowerPoint to the submission folder and your speaker notes. So there's 2 submissions you should make. So that way I can review both your presentation and your speaker notes. And then after that, you're good to go. So if you have any questions about this, let me know, email me, reach out. I'd be happy to, you know, answer any further, you know, give you any further clarification that you need. And I look forward to seeing your completed work. Bye.